Get ready, Sheehanites.
Stop this nonsense.
So I had to go get it at like a grocery store.
Gimmick. Sign me up for 1990s comics.
Is there any other kind of talk about X-Men 30 that's not juicy though?
In a poly bag. You always gotta love a poly bag.
The kingpin of cable #1.
That was all snooty about it.
I'll take Alex Ross as a consolation, but give me Jason Fabok. Organic Price Books. Save yourself $2 at checkout. The coupon code is Sheehan is dead. And then that's going to save you about $2. But you make an account there. It's very simple. You just put in your email and make a password. And then you start accumulating points.
Name something new mothers spend most of their time doing.
Depending on how much you buy. And they do such an excellent job of packing. Like you could throw this thing down in an elevator, to quote Brad Anderson. Okay.
Nice.
So I got Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, okay.
Omnibus. And I didn't even know back in the day because I had the #1, like, oh my God, I have the #1 with the foil. I'm going to be rich in 10 years, right? Gimme, gimmick. This is 1 through 46. And if I heard right, I thought Omar said there might be a volume 2. I didn't even know that they went that far.
I didn't realize that the 2099 stuff ran that long.
Spider-Man, Punisher, and I think X-Men 2099.
There was, yeah.
Pretty cool. It's got all.
So what years would that be? I mean, that's going back to the 90s, isn't it?
Yeah, this is like some 90s love. 1993. This came today. I'm going to check it out. Comics Encyclopedia.
Cool.
Again, from Organic Price Books. All you Sheehanites. The Fantastic Four by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. Right now, at the time when this came out, like Brian Hitch was the hottest thing on the planet Earth for artists.
Okay.
Because it's like, it even says it here, the Fantastic Four go widescreen. Because he had also done the Ultimates, and the Ultimates was super cool. I remember reading that. It was like a modern day retelling of the Avengers.
Okay.
And he drew it like in cinematically, like widescreen.
Mm-hmm.
But Omar had done an overview like 2 weeks ago. He went through the pages and the art looked so good. And he was saying how there's some things that start in here that end up tying into Jonathan Hickman's legendary Fantastic Four.
Okay. So what era is that?
It's Fantastic Four from 1998, 554 through 559. Then it's got Fantastic Four Annual 2010, number 32. Fantastic Force 2009, 1 through 4. Wow. And Marvel 1985, 1 through 6.
Interesting.
Omar was all over it.
Fantastic Four was my favorite magazine before I stumbled across the X-Men. I always liked them.
Forward to reading this.
Yeah.
Just to experience it. And then eventually read Jonathan Hickman's Volume 1 and Volume 2 of Fantastic Four. And then here we go. DC versus Marvel, baby.
Interesting.
Yeah. I got one.
Would you get those on eBay? Cool.
Yeah. I mean, look at the art. The art's not very good. It's very cookie cutter. Like, I could draw better than that, but
it's not bad though.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's just not Fabok.
Oh man, if Fabok ever did a DC versus Marvel and he was the artist on it, I would die. I would faint.
It's not Alex Ross either.
No. I mean, I'll take Alex Ross as a consolation, but give me Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson.
Yeah.
And then this one's so cool up.
Yeah.
Back in the day, my friends and I would like argue. It's like nerd rage.
Who could be who? Yeah.
Superman or the Hulk.
So how old are these guys? When would these have been published?
I want to say 1996, maybe.
What's the cover price on them?
Number 4.
Okay.
Cover price is $3.95, but I'm jazzed to go through them and just experience them again.
Cool. We were down in Rhinebeck and there's a comic shop. I think it's called Mega Brain. They don't have a lot of vintage stuff, but
did you say Mega Brain?
Mega Brain, I believe it's called. Yeah. I picked up 3. This is Andy Kubert.
Okay.
And it's in the poly bag with a card in the back.
Oh man, you got the card. Hey now.
Yeah. So that was X-Men, the second volume, number 16. And then I didn't have these two. Here's a great Storm cover. So this is 91, the Uncanny.
Oh, dude, that is just like sign me up for 1990s comics.
Yeah. So I guess this was the first full issue appearance of Bishop. And then this is the following issue, 284. Not
Oh,
quite as good of a cover.
there's a lot going on there. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Is that a head they're climbing out of, or
Yeah, I guess. Some kind of a giant
skull, or
robot thing or something. I have no
Okay.
idea. Or a dinosaur. In a poly bag. You always got to love a poly bag. What do you do if it's poly bag, though? You can't get that in there. This is
Well,
the problem.
I'll tell you, you are going to single-handedly keep them recession proof.
If I keep buying them, then no one else will have them, and then slowly the market, will get artificially inflated.
That's right. You'll be the kingpin of cable number ones. Stop this nonsense.
Bummer,
The
my
juicy
fault.
X-Men 30 talk. Is there
Sorry
any
about
other kind of talk about X-Men 30 that's not juicy though?
Hey, that cover you have with signed by Byrne and Claremont, I saw on Twitter Brett Booth was doing a commission yesterday. He finished it, but he only had the pencils.
Oh, the classic 137?
Yeah, Brett Booth was doing a commission.
Oh, that's
Someone must have
cool.
been like, "Hey, can you draw me the cover?" So
Did he have this comic could be worth $2,500 to you? The big Toys R Us sweepstakes that we're having. I always hated that.
I
Like,
always
that
did
big
too.
ad, like on one of the most, if not the most iconic X-Men cover ever, has this big ad for the Toys R Us sweepstake.
There was some too around that period of time that had like a picture of a stupid bicycle. Remember those? I hated all of those. I think they did it on some of the Star Wars. They did it on all of them.
I'm always curious who won.
now I remember you
Oh,
had
thank you.
watched. You said you had read Doomsday Clock in one sitting.
Yes. I had no idea I was going to be reading a Superman story. For me, Watchmen is just one of these stories. Like, there's a few others that I don't think need a sequel. They stand on their own. They don't need a follow-up. They don't need an expansion of the universe. It has a beginning, has an ending, and that's it. You don't need anything else. So when I wasn't a fan of before Watchmen, I've read most of them, and while some of them are beautifully drawn and well written, it doesn't need that expansion. So I thought Doomsday Clock was, hey, let's get all the DC universe and bring the Watchmen into this universe, which to me, I was like, that's ridiculous. And then they announced the creative team of Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. And I thought, well, I love Jeff Johns. Like, everything that man has written is amazing.
Yes.
And I love Gary Frank. And both of them work together on Superman. And I really like that run. One of the best Superman runs of all time. So I was thinking, all right, well, let's give it a shot. So I read the first issue and I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I read the second issue and I kept going. But I did pick up the Absolute because that book deserves to be in Absolute format. It's so weird, man, because now I keep it next to my Watchmen Absolute. And I was like, that Watchmen doesn't need a sequel or follow-up, right? I was all snooty about it. And now it's like right beside it because it's so pretty together, right? Like the spine is it's pretty much the negative of the Absolute Watchmen. So you have the yellow on black and black on yellow instead. It's so cool. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful together.
That story was the first thing to get me to buy a floppy, go to the comic store and buy a comic since I was like probably 16 or 17. That actually made me go and want to read issue to issue like never before since I was younger. And I got the Absolute right here next to
Yes,
dude.
My man.
Yeah, we interviewed the colorist Brad Anderson.
Brad Anderson, yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, I got this, and he pulls out this box, and it's the Doomsday Clock symbol. He opens it up, and like issue number 1 is right here, polybagged, and then it's like pancake mix syrup for when Rorschach ate Batman's pancakes. Scott and I were like, whoa, like that, because it was so cool. It must
like
have been
private label pancake mix with the logo on the bag and the whole thing, and it was legit, and then there was some other stuff. It was really neat.
He had original art behind him. It's the one when Dr. Manhattan and Superman first meet officially. And,
oh yeah.
And he had the original page that Gary gave him, framed, and he like brought it up to the camera. It was beautiful.
I'm always jealous of the people that work on these books that get all the original art and all the original goodies.
It's amazing to think that back, I guess into the 70s, maybe even to the early 80s, that the artists didn't get to their art back.
And there wasn't even a market for it, right? I mean, if you think about it back then, well, in the 70s, nobody knew about a market for these things. Like how many stories have you heard of Jack Kirby just sitting and throwing away pages or sitting on pages and somebody coming to his house and they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is original art.
I wonder where a lot of that stuff, disappeared to. Liefeld talks about that in his podcast about how it used to be. You didn't get your art back in the day.
No, you had to fight for that art.
Yeah.
And eventually they worked out in the contract that, I don't know what the rule is anymore. I don't know how much penciler gets, the inker gets, but that's changed over time.
Well, Rob's had talked about at I forgot what convention it was, maybe in the late 70s or early 80s. People were wearing shirts that said, give Jack his artwork back. Kirby. And it was like this big thing. He did a whole episode on it.
Free Winona Ryder. Remember back when she got busted for shoplifting? Check this out. I got this today. If you could see through the glare.
Yeah, Executioner song, baby.
Yeah.
Is that X-Men? That's adjectively 16? That's 16?
Yes, it is, sir. Yep, you got it. Still polybagged.
Oh, but who's on the card? That's the hard.
I haven't pulled it out.
Don't you touch it. Don't you touch it.
It says strike file. That's all it says.
Yeah. So each one came with an individual character. I can't, that's, I may remember issue numbers and artists and writers, but oh my gosh.
Let's see what it is. It's Archangel.
Archangel.
Yeah.
I think that's a Brandon Peterson piece, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been. No, was there Jay Lee artwork too? What made you get that? Just out of curiosity.
The X-Men is my favorite. We happen to be in a town down below where we are. There's a shop. He's got a small band, so I'll check it out. And I've been using the Clears app. And so you've got your collection in your hands at all times. So when I go out to a shop, I can go, look up the series and you can immediately just call up what issues do you not have. And then I got this one, two. Oops, there we go. The first, I guess that was the first full issue of Bishop, Uncanny 283.
So yeah, he makes a cameo. Well, he's on the cover, so it's not really a cameo in 282. Yeah, but I love that. I love the coming of Bishop, man. Wills Portacio was co-plotting that at that time. Jim Lee was co-plotting it. They had all these ideas. Oh yes,
that's and then that was the next one.
And they run into Mikkel. Colossus is long lost. That will always remind me of that was middle school years of shopping. We had a comic book shop that closed, so I had to go get it at like a grocery store, and they don't have folders at grocery stores, so they can't keep your comics for you. So until another comic book store opened in town, I had to go to the grocery store and make sure I was there every week getting my X-Men kick with my mom. But that was a really interesting time because that was when before the Image guys left, they had all these ideas, the foundation of Cable and Bishop. They were laying it out, the Traitor, and then they left. And they were like, it wasn't, and then more than likely they were probably making it up as they were going along, and that's okay. A lot of writers do that. I don't think there was an end game to who the Traitor was supposed to be, even though most of us believed it was Gambit or who. I don't think Onslaught per se was in mind when thinking of the X-Traitor. Okay. So it was really cool to see how Fabian Nicieza picked up those pieces and said, "Screw it, I'll come up with a story. I'll take their Sons of the Father storyline that we're gonna do. We'll change it." Editorial stepped in and said, "Let's call it Executioner's Song because we had Extinction Agenda." So we have to have it X something if it's a big crossover. I mean, that Executioner's Song was all him. He took all those pieces that the Image boys left and was able to make something out of it and gave us Executioner. I thought he did a really good job. I really enjoyed Executioner's Song.
If I finish this and I've done Extinction Agenda, if I was going to buy another Omni, the next Omni from here, what would you recommend?
Oh my gosh, you're talking to a guy that calls himself the Uncanny Omar.
I know.
That's a hard question. Where do you go? Wait, what's a good jumping on point, or what's a good one after Executioner's Song? Is that what you're asking?
So I'm familiar with like the Byrne Dark Phoenix stuff. Mm-hmm. I did the Extinction Agenda, which I did parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't like.
So after Extinction Agenda, it was the storyline where they are reunited with Professor X. But the big thing that happened was this thing called the Muir Island Saga. Mm-hmm. The Shadow King, like one of the biggest nemesis Professor X had, was taking over the island and mind controlling everybody. After that, editorial said, look, we had a successful relaunch of Spider-Man with Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane.
Okay.
Why don't we do the same with Uncanny? We take this hot dude, Jim Lee, give him a book. We'll call it X-Men. We'll have Uncanny and we'll have X-Men.